Hey YouTube, I'm in Japan right now, and as part of that, I entered Evo Japan, the most stacked Fatal Fury City of the Wolves tournament yet, and got 9.
How the hell did I beat this dude?
Making me the highest pricing person on the Western Hemisphere that entered the tournament. And I'm gonna farm it for as much as it is worth, which means making a tier list. This tier list from Monger kind of encapsulates what Americans think about the game, but after going over to Asia and playing a lot, my perspective of the game has changed a lot. And so, let's make a tier list. So in order to talk about a tier list, I need to first talk about what I think makes a really strong character in this game. And there's a few different attributes. The first is how strong fireballs are in this game. And you might think that like fireballs aren't actually that good. You can just guard them on reaction, and you see you actually generate a little bit of health. So are fireballs really that strong? Well, yes, they are, because a lot of fireballs you can just kind of walk behind and then get a mix up, right? That's why Hotaru is considered to be the best character in the game by most people, because you throw a fireball and then you run up and you do throw, or you can run up and you can do strike, right? And so being able to either 1, deal with fireballs, or 2, put out your own fireballs is essential to being a good character in this game. If you can't do either of those, you're pretty much dead in the water. So take, for example, Hokutomaru. He has several very good ways to approach fireballs, right? One is he can throw his own fireball. His fireball goes through other characters' fireballs. He also has some additional air movement, right? Which makes anti-airing him really tricky and therefore tricky to throw fireballs. The second thing that's really important is having a decent mix-up. So that could mean a couple of different things. So someone like Hotaru, it means having a command grab that can't be teched, adds an additional layer to the mix-up. And you can do stuff like EX command grab into a full combo into super, and you can completely delete their health off of an unreactable command grab that can basically only be jumped or mashed. So take, for example, Marco. This move here is an overhead, but it's not actually that strong. It's 25 frames, which means any decent player is going to be able to react. This move, however, is a lot stronger. At 19 frames, it's a lot quicker. Generally, people think this can't be blocked on reaction. And the other thing that makes this really strong is the fact that you can combo a jab after it. And so you can get combos like this. It makes mix-up very, very threatening in this game. In fact, I think overheads are generally stronger because there's this mechanic called fuzzy jump, which basically means that like you just do it like a delay jump like this, right? You block for a little bit and then you jump, and this automatically beats command grabs, right? So for example, like I go for a throw, I just whiff my throw. If I go for a strike, the strike's blocked. And it's really weak to stuff like jump forward, and then that jump forward happens, you get full combo, right? So overheads are also considered to be very strong in the terms of mix. The other type of mix-up that's really strong is stuff like having more opportunities to do strike throw. So like, for example, anytime he gets a knockdown, he can do this, and he can keep mixing up. And if you want to bait something out, you throw this ball, you wait, the ball explodes, and then you get another mix-up opportunity. Having some type of form of offense like this is really important in order to make the most of your opportunities when you get the opponent to block. And the third thing that I think makes a really strong character is having a good defensive option. Now, this can be something very traditional like a DP in order to get the opponent off of you, or this can be something like a really good defensive rev blow. Now, all rev blows in this game are not made the same. This, for example, is 17 frames. I can't react to this rev blow with my own rev blow. A character like B.Jenet or Hokutomaru have really strong rev blows. They can do stuff like this, and it's basically a free get off me tool. And if you happen to time it right, you get a full damage punch, which makes trying to attack characters like B.Jenet really, really scary. So with that being said, let's look at the character roster and talk about who I think are the strongest characters. And I think the top 2 characters in this game are Hotaru and Hokutomaru. These are 2 different types of top tiers. I think Hotaru is like your theory top tier. They have everything to make them a strong character. They have the best fireball in the game that you can run behind, one of the best EX fireballs in the game that you can run behind and also nullify the opponent's projectiles. And it's really hard to lose a fireball war with this character because you have a projectile reflect, which makes some matchups that in paper look not that great, actually really strong. You have a really good run, you obviously have mix, you have a DP, you actually have probably the best DP in the game for whatever reason, it's only 4 frames. probably the best breakable DP in the game at 6 frames. And why this is so strong is not only just the damage that you get off of this DP, it's the fact that it's so fast. She also just has really good pressure. So for example, this is +4. Elise are close enough for another feint. But while this feint looks minus, it's actually really tricky to contest because you can cancel into this move or the slow version. And if they happen to mash, all right, so Hokutomaru. So if Hotaru is a theory top tier, this character is a practical top tier. He has all the makings of a top tier, don't get me wrong. This, for example, goes through other fireballs. It's very cheap. He can skip neutral in a variety of different ways, like double jump. And anti-airing jump is really hard in this game in the first place. He also has an air stall to like even bait out attempts on anti-airing the double jump. He has ways to skip neutral, like EX teleport that grants a full combo on hit and is plus on block. He has some of the best pressure in the game. For whatever reason, he's the only character in the game that after 2 feint canceled heavies, he's +1 on block. He has some of the best lights. He has a kunai he can just run in behind. He has an air fireball that he can use to kind of like zone out, and that was also just +11. He has a lot of different strong tools. This is the official matchup matrix from SNK. This is published based on online data. Hokutomaru is by far the most winning character. This thumbnail should give you everything you need to know. In EVO Japan had 3 Hokutomarus in top 6, but there are a few things holding this character back, and the reason I don't think he is the best character in the game. One is I think people are just gonna naturally get better at anti-airing Hokutomaru. I was playing some of the best Japanese players with my pocket Hokutomaru. I do main Ronaldo, and one of the things I noticed they're really good at is they distinguish between when a double jump is coming and when it's not. And they like do stuff like air throw, they do stuff like air to air. They just have really good reactions, and they practice a lot against dealing with Hokutomaru's jumps. And I think with more time, you're gonna see more experience come into play. He also has some very like natural, I would call them like gimmicks almost, right? So one is this EX teleport. While it does seem really good, and you're like, oh, I can't anti-air, you can actually just dash under and get a full punish. I mean, his red blow, for example, probably one of the best red blows in the game. Can be used defensively, and on hit, you get a lot of reward because you can cancel it into itself, and it does about 25% of their health. But there's ways to bait it out. So for example, people like do meaty jabs and then punish with your own rev blow or your whatever and get a full combo. Another thing you can kind of counterplay, a lot of Hokutomarus will like fish for a very like the safe launcher essentially. I played a Japanese Hotaru. Every time I did this, got punched. You get the idea. And even stuff like the reversal, right? This is like the easiest, if you want to like have your own Evo moment 37, it's the easiest one. Just tap forward and then tap back. But you see, I still messed up the punishes even in training mode. But people are gonna get better and better at punishing this kind of stuff. And which is why I think Hokutomaru, despite his high win rate, is probably only number 2 in the game, because the stuff Hotaru does is just simply better and there's not much counterplay. I think he's practical top tier. If you want to win the first few months of the game, I don't think he's gonna fall off because his neutral is just too good. Really good character. The third character that I think is really strong is Kain. And I think these 3 characters are just basically in a tier of their own. We kind of talked about some of the reasons, right? Just really good neutral. You have a fireball. You basically force most opponents to come to you. This just farms half the cast. Use that to kind of set up your pressure. Some very, very strong pressure. A lot of people thought like these double hitting normals would be bad. I think they're actually really good because this hedges against just defend, which is way easier to do than a 3-frame hyper cancel that's borderline unreactable. So his pressure really strong. He has probably the best breakable move in the game, which is this DP. You can kind of just spam it, is charge. He does crazy damage. He has crazy setups. Basically, after any knockdown, you get at least a ball, and you go for a mix-up, and then you basically get more turns at a mix-up. He also has one of the best fuck it skip neutral moves in this EX Lariat. This is +3 on block. This character basically has everything. If I could say weakness, it's that he loses to Hotaru and Hokutomaru. He has to approach Hokutomaru because he has the multi-hitting fireballs. He has to approach Hotaru because she has a fireball reflect. Now we get to the Immortals. This is probably the biggest change of tier lists between America and Asia, Marco and Gato. And they both serve a very similar function. They both have a practically unreactable overhead that gets you a combo after, right? Marco is a little bit more well-rounded. He has a fireball, which means that he can force some of the cast to come to him. He has a DP, which means his anti-air capabilities are a lot better than some of the rest of the cast. And he has a couple really good fuck it skip neutral tools, like this EX kick that's -2 on block if you break it, and leads into a knockdown if you don't break it and you get the hit confirm. Another really cool thing people have been doing with this character is they get the knockdown. Let me see if I can do it. You do a frame kill and you do the overhead, and that gets you a +7 hit overhead. This is 6 frames, which means you get a crazy combo after. You get the idea. And you can obviously go low and you can chunk out a bunch of damage and it loops into itself. So basically this character is like a vortex character with high, low, and obviously you can bait like DPs and stuff too. Also, you have really good anti-fireball. This is probably the best anti-fireball super in the game. Goes very fast, it's safe on block, and that's why I think Marco is in my top 5. Another character in contention for top 5 is Gato. Very similar function to Marco. Same thing, you have an overhead. This overhead gets you a combo. The combo is something like this. Go into super, and then you do mix up, right? But in exchange, you're missing a couple tools. Like you don't have a fireball, and you don't have very good anti-fireball, right? You can do stuff like this. You can try to pester people with fireballs, but it's nothing amazing. But you do have a couple advantages to make up for it. One, you also have a command grab. This back turn command grab is essentially unreactable, and you get a full combo from it. The other advantage is you have one of the best normals in the game, in my opinion, this forward light kick. Any normal that can check people walking back and potentially get a combo. So for example, like if I space this correctly, this combos. So I can basically start my offense from a 1/3 of the screen normal that if they happen to guard is potentially plus on block, and can hop over lows and get you a wild counter and get a full punish. Marco has all the tools to make a really good character, and Gato has a couple of the tools, but also just really good damage and neutral to kind of make up for the lack of anti-fireball. The other character I think is in contention for top 5 is Billy. Billy, on the other hand, has very pronounced weaknesses, right? Unlike Gato or Marco, he doesn't have a DP, and his anti is actually really bad. This has startup invincibility later than most of the rest of the cast. He also only has this as an invincible reversal, which isn't the best. He also only has strike throw. Even his anti-fireball is not amazing. So how is this character top tier? A couple reasons. One, jump C is amazing. Saying he doesn't have anti-fireball is not really true, because this tool is very good against fireballs. For example, most characters, if they want to punish a fireball, they have to jump around here. Billy can jump around here. So it makes a lot more of the screen unsafe to throw a fireball against, which, by the way, jumping at this range is a lot harder to anti-air. So you can kind of play this like range where it's really scary to throw fireballs. Also, people thought step dashes were kind of inferior to run, but for whatever reason, Billy's step dash is really, really fast. Like, really fast. And the thing that makes it better than you might think than a run is, unlike a run, the initial momentum of a step dash is really quick. So if I try to anti-air Hotaru, I might just get stuffed because like I don't have the best angle on my universal anti-air. But what people are doing is they're using this initial dash momentum to kind of go under and get a punch. Because whenever you land from the a jump in, you're very well on the way down. But what about the mix-up game? Is it that good? Yeah, well, so anytime you pull them in, you're plus on block. And yes, in theory, you can just guard it and you can punish, but there's a lot of mix-ups, right? You don't have to pull them in. And if you anticipate and you try to like just guard a move, you might whiff it. Same thing with the stand C. Stand C, great normal. Really prone to whiffing. It's normal like against strong players isn't as good because like people just jump like crazy. So you really have to condition them to sit still. But this normal, for example, is really strong. Or just anti-airing is really strong with the character. And once you get condition them to sit still, you can do stuff like this. This is a true block string, by the way, which means you can't just guard it if you didn't just guard the first hit. And every time you do this, you get a frame trap opportunity. And you can do some crazy stuff like this. Oh, by the way, same sequence. Yeah, you're already burnt out, and I can cancel this into EX, and then I can do another EX. And then now you're guard crushed, right? So it's all of these things that make Billy quite strong, despite his apparent weaknesses. And in fact, I think this character is actually one of the best counters to Hokutomaru right now. Hokutomaru's weakness is he doesn't have a DP, and you're the character that abuses that the most, with plus frames on top of plus frames, on top of plus frames. And while you don't have a DP to anti-air Hokutomaru, no one does. So I think Billy also has a place in the meta. So Terry and Rock are pretty similar. They're both really strong and neutral. Rock has one of the better fireballs in the game. The thing about this fireball is it can negate other fireballs, right? So if we're in a fireball war, let's say against Hotaru, you have a way to kind of nullify her fireball and approach in. You also have a run. You have very good low confirms. You have a DP, of course. You also have a command grab that you can get a full combo off of. He basically has all the makings of what make a good character according to my list. He just doesn't have any bullshit. His mix-up's worse than Gato or Marcos. He doesn't have neutral skipping fireballs like Hotaru or Hokutomaru. And he doesn't have the sheer amount of bullshit in RPS situations that Kain does. Rock also has generally pretty low damage. Terry, pretty similar, except you sacrifice some of the mix-up, right? Terry doesn't have a command grab, but you do have better pressure. Stuff like this plus on block Rekka that you can use to kind of extend your turns. You also have one of the best EX moves in the game, EX Bird Knuckle, which can lead into a full combo or can be made safe with a variety of different special cancel options. You also have another great EX move that you can kind of just run behind, and you have pretty good damage, but you're just kind of lacking a little of the mix that Rock has. So I think they're all pretty equivalent. They're very, very well-rounded characters. They can play the game and generally pretty strong. Which brings us to two wildcards, Vox and Ronaldo. These are two of the least played characters in the game. Maybe people underrate or overrate these characters because they just don't know that much about them. Vox is a character that Asia thinks is really strong. He has very good ways to kind of skip neutral. One of them being this core circle forward heavy that is +3 on block. So for example, if Ronaldo is trying to, summon the ball, you can just say, fuck it. Oh, and by the way, you get a full combo here. I think this is one of the best, strongest normal specials in the game. You also have an EX dive kick, which, as long as you space properly, can be slightly minus or even plus. And this is something like, for example, you're just kind of like looking out. You don't have to commit, right? You can just neutral jump. And then you see something happen, you can let it rip, right? Or if you're like in the right spot, you can get a punish and then start your offense. And your offense is actually quite good because you have a command grab that, by the way, does more damage than other command grabs. And you have an EX in case you want to burn it for more meter. I don't know the combo. You get the idea. Really strong offense, really, really strong damage, some of the best damage in the game. But he does have a couple weaknesses. He doesn't have like a true anti-fireball, right? So if, for example, like, getting around this can be kind of hard. Honestly, you have to waste the meter from EX dive kick. Oh, by the way, which grants you combo and counter it. I don't know if I believe the anti-fireball argument too much. He is also a little slow, right? So he doesn't have like the best movement. Again, it's just lack of, like, for example, if you try and catch Hokutomaru, might be a little tricky to catch him, right? He's also lacking some, bullshit that the top tiers have. He has this like high jump kick, so you can do this jump kick like really low, like really early in your jump, which makes this like character really hard to anti-air, right? This is still plus when done this high, or you could just do it where you're like slightly at this range. Oh, also jab, jab, DP. You get the idea. You get a lot of damage off of a jab from a safe DP break cancel. A lot of characters don't get that. So his punish game's actually pretty good too. Ronaldo, on the other hand, he's interesting. He has probably the best damage in the game. He also has really good zoning. These fireball cancels are really strong. You can set up a number of advantageous situations, right? This is +10 on hit, so you can do like stuff like this. All right, juggle the ball, get yourself a combo, go into super, they die, right? So this character has, just in general, pretty good neutral. He also has one of the best EX moves in the game in this EX ball. So if someone's trying to throw fireballs, you just do EX ball, cancel his EX ball and the EX run, set up a ball for summon, go for a mix up, okay, they died. So you can kind of get your bullshit started with just one move. Now, this character has a couple flaws, right? One, this ball set's really strong, but if the opponent just throws a fireball, you can kind of negate a lot of the strength. And your only anti-fireball option is either this EX or this super, which costs a resource, right? This pressure in general is probably weaker than the rest of the cast because he gets pushed out with Rev Guard easier than other characters. And one of the ways people negate Rev Guard is like going for like jab pressure and stuff. His jab pressure is honestly kind of gimmicky, right? He doesn't get he probably has the worst jab punches in the game. And unlike Vox, he doesn't have a true mix-up, right? He's just playing strike throw. So his mix-up game is not very strong, although his throw game is quite strong because, you know, he can do throw baits like this, essentially throw loop you to death. And if he gets the hit, he's gonna make it count. So overall, I think Ronaldo is kind of a wild card. There's a lot of things about him that, like, you know, make me think that he's gonna fall off because, you know, he has a lot of gimmicks like this. But at the same time, like, just his neutral and his zoning and the potential that there's more tech to be found. For example, I just learned, so this is a new setup I literally just learned because I stole it from a Japanese player. So you can throw them in between the hits and the bounces of the ball. And then you can, like, you know, use the second ball as a throw. So it's like auto throw bait, not to mention it's DP safe. This character has still a lot of potential to unlock, and I think he's one of the most technical characters in the game. And usually technical characters, they have the potential to rise up in the tier list. But right now, this is where I'm putting him. So B.Jenet is actually a character I contemplated leaving up in the higher tier. She's borderline to me, and maybe she'll move up. She's very simple, but she has some very deceptive strengths. Like, she has the best close heavy in the game. Why is this so good? 5 frames, and unlike other characters, if they get rev guarded out, you're still in range for this far heavy into a full combo. And by the way, they can't like jump it or anything, right? So her feint cancel pressure is actually some of the best, if not the best, in the game, and probably along with Kain and a couple other characters, right? Your neutral is actually pretty decent. Some of the best B.Jenets I've played, they're really good at abusing this kick here. You know, you can kind of use it on reaction to punish some moves. You also have some deceivingly good moves, like this kick that for some reason anti-airs. What else? I mean, you have this command hop, still hard for me to deal with, and leads into this crazy pressure, right? We had really strong EX cancels like that, that essentially reset into plus unblock situation, including jacking up the rev gauge with this rev pressure. One of the best safe launchers in the game. This thing is only -3, and you have really good RPS situation after it, because especially if you have like rev blow, or if they try to go for a throw, you know, you fuzzy jump. A lot of different things you can do after. I'd say for weaknesses, this character, they just get walled out, right? Like, you don't have the best neutral, you don't really have anti-fireball outside of like this, and this is like really technical to use. You also don't have like a true mix, right? You're just kind of relying on feint cancel pressure, although you do have some of the best in the game. Another thing about this character is her overhead's actually pretty fast. A lot of characters' overheads are like 24, 25 frames. Hers are 22, which makes it like kind of hard to deal with. So especially on like PS5, like monitor lag and stuff, you can get away with this a little bit easier. In general, she just gets walled out and doesn't have a true mix or a DP, but she does have really good strengths and, you know, best rev blow in the game, and really, some of the best feint cancel pressure in the game too. Preecha, on the other hand, she has the tools to play the game. She has DP, she has a fireball, and she technically has mix. She has like this command stance where you can get an overhead. That's also plus unblock, or you can go for this low. It's not the best because, you know, it is telegraphed, and so like if someone sees this, you know, theoretically they could like reversal or whatnot. It's on the slower end, and you could argue this is, you know, 22 frames. This is a little bit more reactable than, you know, let's say Marco and his 19 frame overhead. she's just lacking bullshit. Most of the Preechas, you'll kind of go for like, stuff like this, into EX, and all right, you're +3, but you don't really get that much off of it. And your anti-fireball is not that good. You do have I think level 2 super is okay, but that's a lot of meter. Generally, like the best anti-fireball supers are level 1s because, meter efficiency is really important in this game. Just being able to get through 1 fireball a match isn't really that impressive. But yeah, I think she just suffers from just not having enough bullshit, right? Unlike some of the best characters, you can't just run behind the fireball and get a mix-up, right? And your options to extend pressure aren't that amazing. Her mix-up's not that amazing. She's just a worse version of some of the other characters in the game. All right, so Kevin and Donghua. These are both 2 very interesting characters, and they have different archetypes relative to the rest of the cast. Kevin's kind of your mobile grappler mix-up character. He has decent mobility, just doing stuff like this can be pretty bro. He's fast. He also has some good mix-up, right? He has a command grab. Generally, the thing he's known for is this prone stance, and then he has an overhead out of this, right? Or a low. Basically, you do a setup where this becomes meaty enough that you get a full combo from. So he has true high-low mix, but he's lacking a lot of the stuff that Marco and Gato do. So if you want to play a true high-low mix character, why would you pick Kevin over Marco or Gato? Yeah, I'm not sure. You're lacking a DP, you're lacking anti-fireball options. You don't have a fireball, nor do you have good neutral skip tools like the forward leg kick of Gato, or the demon flip of Gato. This is these are pretty decent pokes. And you have pretty good mobility, but you don't have really threatening neutral like Gato or Marco does. The other thing is you can't just do the overhead and get a combo. You have to have a setup and get the hit on the first place, which means after stuff like throw, Gato can threaten an overhead. Kevin doesn't really get the same kind of threat. You have to threaten stuff like command grab, and command grab mix is weaker than strike throw mix. And while he does have a lot of tricky specials, none of these are really that great. I mean, these are all, this is +2, but it doesn't go that far. And this is 38 frames compared to something like Vox's 26 frame advancing special. That's plus on block. This is very inferior version. Same thing with this overhead chop, same kind of thing. It's yes, you go over low, but you're still minus, right? And you're Kevin, you don't have the best defense. So I think it's just an inferior version of Gato or Marco at this point. Donghua is really interesting. So he has the DP, but he's lacking the other 2 options, right? He's lacking anti-fireball. I guess his anti-fireball is, he does have some pretty good air mobility, right? He can do feints out for some of the specials. And he has some pretty good jump normals, like this jump D, which alters his air momentum. And he has this auto, this cross up, which is really strong because you can just press forward and a heavy punch, right? And the idea is that the forward heavy punch will get you a jump in normal if you don't cross up. But if you happen to cross up, you get the cross up normal. This is really strong because sometimes people will cross under, and you can't really do that to Donghua. It's kind of a unique strength to him, just being able to abuse this on hops. A lot of characters you could just run under hop, get a full punish. He has some other decent stuff, this is +3, but you can feint cancel it and be still in your face. I think the biggest strength of his, he just has some really good normals. Specifically this move, I think is the best universal anti-air in the game. This is basically unpunishable and is special cancelable on hit. And you get, Donghua's damage is pretty decent. He just doesn't have bullshit. He doesn't really have good mix-up, no true high-low. He has, this is overhead, that's 24 frames, right? He's kind of just lacking the bullshit factor, not to mention on offense, right? No command grab, no high-low, and he doesn't have good anti-fireball. So I'm gonna keep it real. Mai is just the worst Hotaru. Hotaru throws a light fireball and can get a mix-up off of it. Mai throws a fireball and gets to about here. She's just the worst Hotaru. She doesn't have mix-up. She doesn't have a bullshit neutral skip. She has an air special. That's okay. She has maybe this poke is maybe better than Hotaru's. I have no clue why you'd pick Mai over Hotaru other than the fact that maybe she's more visually appealing. Yeah, I guess your EX Fireball does beat other EX Fireballs, but you don't really get any initiative off of it, right? It's I guess it's Ronaldo's, but you just get less reward on hit because even your close pressure isn't that good. And it's easier to react to, right? Salvatore, he's interesting. At first I thought he was broken, and then SNK nerfed him to the ground. So Salvatore has like some really tricky stuff, like this command stance in the overhead. That's like really hard to react to. 22 frames, you get a full combos, technically plus on block. SNK said this is a glitch, and now you can, if you get a 1 frame link, you can combo, but it's like really hard and it's not really practical. And all of his feint cancel pressure that was really strong kind of got nerfed. Now he's just kind of a bunch of gimmicks, right? You can like react to this with a down jab, get a full punish. This jump in, which is really strong, you can kind of like low jab it, for example. Like, okay, let's say, oh no, this is really scary. You can just do stuff like this, right? So he's just lacking a lot. He also doesn't have a DP. His mix-up that was pretty decent, it's not that great now. He just has like pretty decent neutral with his jump normals and pretty decent pressure with his feint cancels. And you know, this EX move is pretty decent. So this is actually safe, as long as you space it out properly. So this is actually like probably one of the best neutral skip lows in the game for some reason. He just happens to have that. I think that's pretty strong, but again, just not enough bullshit. Which takes us to Tizoc, who I think is the worst character in the game. So in the game where fireballs are extremely dominant, you have basically no anti-fireball. You have this, which can be DP'd on reaction. This is his best anti-fireball tool. But they nerfed this from the beta. Like, you could just universal anti, you can DP, you can just guard and punish. You're super immobile. Even your mix-up isn't even that amazing. Like if you do something like command grab. And like, okay, you can do stuff like that. That's cool, I guess. But like, bro, you could just play a non-grab like Vox or Hotaru and get actual similar damage to actual Oki without spending EX. He doesn't have the best command grab in the game. He got stuff like this that's like gimmicky, and it'll probably work because like no one at high level plays this character. You know, this is reactable. You take this giant ass risk for 140 damage. 1 feint cancel, you're out of EX SPD range, bro. Like, you just rev guard him out. This character does have a couple redeeming qualities. Elbow is good. This move is good. This is probably one of the best universal anti-airs in the game. You can special cancel, right? And then you get a mix up, and then you do have a command grab, right? And the command grab does some pretty decent damage. It just doesn't make up. You do have a 720 super. The super is good. It can punish like universal overheads on reaction, right? So if you know, like if you're actually cracked, this is a punish. Only character in the game that can do that. Pretty cool. Really good from empty jumps, right? If people are like option selecting, that's really cool. You can do stuff like that. That's really cool. Pretty good just guard select, but like it's more work, and like DP breaks do more damage for guard cancels. So it's not even as good as you'd think with the guard cancel SPD. So overall, I just think this character is lacking because lack of anti-fireball. Oh, your defense is also some of the worst in the game too. Surprise. Although you do have a 720 on defense, you just don't have a DP or a good rev blow. And that's pretty much it. And you know, to compare, I wanted to show you guys a couple Japanese tier lists I saw, since I think these are probably the most accurate and some of the best players right now. Nemo, who just got 3rd, was this close to qualifying for EWC. This is his tier list. Looks very, very similar to mine. I do think Billy and Gato, Billy and Marco are stronger characters than Gato, but pretty much everything else is in similar order. You know, I have B.Jenet a little higher than them. But I think the community is starting to come to a consensus. Very, very similar. You know, they just have Rock and Terry below. This is Scores, who also made top 8. If you take an average Japanese tier list, this is what they think, although, you know, Scores a Hokutomaru player, they have to downplay a little bit, of course. And this is Koji Cogs. Again, very similar thoughts. And to really drive home the point about Tizoc being bad, you know, look at this list. Tizoc getting brutally murdered in the matchup charts. Everyone tell me go eat. All right, like, share, subscribe. Take care, and I'll catch y'all in the next one.